This is a question on Scarlet and Co. And I'm going to look at this question to remind you, as a refresher, those controls that we've looked at under the process called wages or payroll. This is a very good question, and like I always tell you, we'll always have to start from the requirement of the question, which is number A, identify and explain 5 strengths, and B wants us to identify 6 control deficiencies and the recommendation for each deficiency. The C is on substantive procedure. We are not going to look at that now because we've not dealt with that. That is section D. We're still on section C. So this question, I'm going to only deal with section required A and requirement B, okay, for this one. Now, looking at the question, I advise you go through it for a few minutes before we start solving it. But let me quickly read. You're an audit senior, in Scarlet, but you want to audit bronze industry code. That's what the first paragraph is talking about. Now let's go into the details of the other paragraph, trying to look for strength. Remember, the first part is to look for strength. So once we see each strength, we'll start to document it. And in terms of explaining, remember the question says identify and explain. So please pay attention to the question because you have to address all the requirements to earn yourself good marks. Some students will only identify, they will not explain. So how do you explain it? Explanation is you telling the examiner how what you have identified is actually a strength. How is it a benefit? How is it a control? Now let's read. Bronze operates several chemical processing factories across the country. It manufactures 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and employees work a standard shift of 8 hours and are paid for hours worked at an hourly rate factory. Factory employees are paid weekly, with approximately 80% being paid by bank transfer and 20% in cash. The different payment methods are due to employee preferences, and Bronze has no plans to change these methods. The administrations and sales teams are paid monthly by bank transfer. So in that first paragraph, I don't see any strength there yet, so we'll keep looking for controls. We're looking for controls. Remember, those are the strengths. The controls are good for the payroll process. Now, going to the next paragraph. Factory staff are each issued a sequential numbered clock card. That is a control. I've always told you, anytime you see anything that is sequential, it is a control. It's good to have anything that is sequential. Right? So, the strength now that we have seen, the first one is the sequentially numbered clock card. Now the explanation is, why is this a control? It is a control because it helps us with completeness. I'm trying to explain before I write it. Remember, if anything is numbered sequentially, you can tell the quantity or the total that you should have. So if we have issued the last card that was issued as number 10, then we know that we must have 10 employees. So sequentially numbering anything helps us to address completeness. And in terms of staff, this helps us to identify the total number of people that we should have. And if we have more than that on the system, it means that they are fake staff that we are paying. So in this case, that will help us in 2 ways. The sequentially numbered. Number one is the first way is that it is easier for us to track the total. So it's easier to confirm the total number of staff and avoid fake employees. Because remember, if the last card is number 53 and we have just 52 people on site, it means that there is one staff that is fake, that does not exist, because the number of cards will tell us the number of people that we should have. So that is why it is a control. It helps us to identify or prevent fake employees. That's why it's a control. So we'll keep reading. So these details their employee number and name. Employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift, and this process is not supervised. Okay, we'll come to that when we're looking at weakness, because this is a weakness which we will come to. We'll address this one later. All right. Okay, we'll keep going. During the shift, employees are entitled to a 30-minute break, and employees do not need to clock out to access the dining area. Okay, this is another weakness that we have to come to. Clock card data links into the payroll system, which automatically calculates gross and net pay along with the statutory deduction. So anything that computer is doing as well, which means it's automated, it's a control. Because remember, anytime we have an automated process, human error is highly minimized. So the strength here is that the payroll calculations are automated. Very good. Payroll computation are automated. That is the strength. And why is it a strength? Because it helps to minimize human error. Remember, no matter how good human is, human will always be human. We're always prone to errors, but once it's been done by the system, you can 100% sure that there cannot be error, except there's a bug and there's something wrong with the system, which is different problem entirely. Now, the payroll supervisor for each payment runs checks on a sample basis. Some of these calculations to ensure the system is operating effectively. This is another control. When you are running a check on a sample basis, this is checking for bug in the system. Okay, so this is a payroll supervisor check. Check or review on sample basis. Of payroll computation. Very good control. And what is the explanation for this? This will help us ensure that the automated process itself does not have a bug. There's no problem with the system and nothing has gone wrong, whether from hacker or from anybody trying to play with the system, right? So helps to identify any bug in the payroll computer system. Because if there is no bug, the system will be 100% accurate. It's garbage in, garbage out. However, if there is a bug, then you cannot be sure of what the system is doing. That's another strength. We're still looking. We're asked to identify 5 strengths. Let's see how much we can still get. Right. Bronze has a human resources department which is responsible for setting up new permanent employees and leavers. Appointment of temporary staff are made by factory production supervisor. This is a problem. This doesn't look good. This is not HR. HR should only do recruitment, so we'll keep that for weakness. Occasionally, overtime is required of factory staff, usually to fill gaps caused by staff holidays. Overtime reports, which detail the amount of overtime worked, are sent out quarterly by the payroll department to production supervisor for their review. Overtime worked. We are doing a review after the effects. This is a problem that we have to come back to as well. Yeah. And we'll come back to that, right? But let's keep looking for strengths. Next page. To encourage staff to attend work on time for all shift, Bronze pays a discretionary bonus every 6 months to to factory staff. The production supervisors determine the amounts to be paid. This is a problem. This doesn't look good. This is communicated in writing by the production supervisor to the payroll department, and the bonus is input by the clerk. Okay. You can see anything that is communicated in writing is good. So this is a strength. However, a clerk doing it, bonus is not a routine task. It shouldn't be done by a junior staff, right? And I'm coming to that. That's a weakness which we'll leave. But first of all, let's isolate the strength that we can see. Remember, it is written. So written communication is always a strength, and we'll explain why. Written communication of bonus. This is a strength. And what is a strength? Because it provides evidence and auditory. Anything that helps you to know your auditory. Auditory means you are able to trace the source and what's going on. Yeah. Provide audit trail. Yeah. So it provides evidence and audit trail of the bonus decision and amount. So it's very unlikely that someone will say, I don't know the amount, or I forgot, or I used a different figure, because when they told me, I thought they were saying something different. It is written. You can always go back to it and validate it. So this is a strength. Please take note. Anything that is automated is strength. Anything that is written is strength. Any review is a strength, because those are controls. Yeah. So and sequential numbering is also a control. So those are basic things you need to take note of when you are looking for controls. Now, last paragraph. For employees paid by bank transfer, the payroll manager reviews the list. You can see this is another strength. Anytime you see a review, like I said, is a strength. And agrees to the payroll record prior to authorizing the bank transfer. So, review by payroll manager of the list. It's a control, because it does that before authorization. So very good. So why is this good? Why is this a control? It's a control because you can minimize error. So error can be detected and corrected. Therefore, minimizes error. So that's the importance of that. You can minimize error. That is why it's a strength. Let's go. If any changes are required, the payroll manager amends the records. No, this is bad. You cannot be authorizing and still have the ability to amend. It means that you can do fraud, because it means you will just amend anything and still approve it. So this is a problem that we have to come back to. For example, for employees paid in cash, the pay packets are prepared in the payroll department, and the clerk distributes them to employees. As she knows most of these individuals, she does not require proof of identity. This is interesting. No, this is not good enough. You need proof of identity to pay anybody, right? Yeah, so that is strength. But you can see from previous reading, we saw that HR is the one that are recruiting, and there's also a payroll department that does the payment of salary. So in that case, we'll pick that as a strength, because there is a segregation of duty. Segregation of duty between HR department that recruits and payroll department payroll department that pay salaries. So the people that employ staff are not the same people that pay the salary. So that is good and that is a strength. As you can see in the previous, Bronze has a human resources department which is responsible for setting up new permanent employees. That's a different department. That is HR department, and there's a payroll department that performs the salary payment. So this is good because with this one, it is difficult to hire fake staff and still pay them. So fraud, anytime you identify SOD, fraud can be prevented. That's the major reason why you have SOD. Remember, segregation of duty is ensuring that no single person is able to initiate and complete a transaction. Because if that happens, they will be able to do fraud. Yeah, so fraud can be prevented. Yeah, e.g., no fake staff can be employed and paid. Because even if human resources employ fake staff, payroll department will catch it and say we cannot pay the person because we don't know him. So no fake staff can be employed and paid. So you asked for 5, we've been able to identify 6. And that is the A part of the question. Now let's look at the B part, which is on deficiencies and recommendations. So we're still going to use our table. Like I always tell you, in this audit, please try and use table to answer your questions as much as relevant, right? Because it makes the examiner to see clearly what you are talking about and how you have addressed each question. So deficiency and recommendation. We need 6 for each of them. And we've been trying to identify some of them before. The first one we identify is that process is not supervised. Which process is that? So factory staff are each issue a sequential number clock card which details the employee number and name. Employees swipe their cards at the beginning and at the end of the 8-hour shift, and this process is not supervised. So that is the deficiency. Please, when you are talking in audit and you identify deficiency, you need to say why it is a deficiency. The same way we are saying why it is a control here. Don't just say it is not, clocking is not supervised and you just go there. You need to say what could go wrong. That is why it's a deficiency. So clocking in is not supervised. And why? Staff can clock in for their friends. And once they clock in, they will be paid. And if the person is not there and someone is just holding his ID card for him, he will get paid without working. So that is why it is bad. You cannot leave clocking unsupervised. And because they work 24 hours a day, you cannot put human being there for 24 hours. So the best thing is to install CCTV camera to monitor clock in and clock out. Very important. So that is number 1 weakness. We keep going. Number 2, during the shift, employees are entitled to break, and we identify this one. So employees do not need to clock out. That is quite silly that people can just go on break without clocking in and clocking out. It means they can go for 2 hours break because they're only entitled to 30 minutes and they don't have to clock in and clock out. So they go for 3 hours break, you don't know, and you still pay for 3 hours instead of 30 minutes that you are entitled to. So they have to clock in. So the weakness here, which is the deficiency, is that lunch or dinner break, we are entitled to 30 minutes paid break. So break time is not clocked in or out. And this may result in employees spending prolonged time on break and still get paid. Yeah, so that's what will go wrong. What is the solution? What is our recommendation as auditor? We need to tell them employees must clock in and out during break. So that system must be in place. Very good. We keep going. We really saw a lot of weaknesses. Yeah. So we'll keep going. We said, I think in the third paragraph we saw another one. Yeah. Where they say Bronze has Human Resources Department, which is responsible for setting up permanent employees and leavers. Appointment of temporary staff are made by factory production supervisor. No. Human Resources should employ and take care of both permanent and temporary staff. Factory supervisors cannot be employers, because if you make them employers, then they can as well be bringing in their friends and family to come and work, right? So, which they might not necessarily be qualified to do the job. So, human resources are trained to recruit the best staff. That is their profession, and they must do it, and not supervisors. So, the weakness is that temporary staff are employed by factory production supervisor. That does not make sense. And why? Supervisors may employ their friends and family who might not qualify for the job. Yeah, they might not be appropriate for the job. Yeah, so, and what is our recommendation? All staff recruitment must be handled. All staff hires must be handled or managed by HR department. Very important. That is their work. That is their profession. They know what to look out for and how to get the best candidate for the jobs. Right. So we have 3. We're looking for how many? We're looking for 6. So let's keep going. Now, this is communicated in writing, yes, but the bonus is imputed by the clerk. Now, that is another problem. Yeah, remember, okay, we're not even there yet. Let's finish this previous paragraph. So appointment of temporary staff are made by factory supervisors. Yes, we circle that as a weakness. We've dealt with that. Occasionally, overtime is required. Now, talking about overtime, when people work beyond the normal contractual hours, that is unusual. So anytime you see anything that is not routine, then number one, it needs to be handled by a senior person, and there has to be a review on it. And it needs a proper monitoring, because it's not routine, it's unusual. Things like bonuses, things like overtime, they are not routine tasks, right? So overtime, how is it managed? Occasionally, overtime is required of factory staff, usually to fill gaps caused by staff holidays. Overtime reports which detail the amount of overtime worked as sent out quarterly by the payroll department to production supervisors for their review. Quarterly means they've paid them every month. People have already been paid. So we are just reviewing every quarter. It's already late. It's too late, because if people have worked for less than the overtime that they claimed, how do you want to ask them to start bringing money back, or how do you even validate it? It's difficult. So that is not good. That is not a good overtime. So review of overtime report. Quarterly. That's a weakness. And why is it a weakness? It's a weakness because these checks are done after the work has been done. Yeah, so there might be some unnecessary overtime that have been worked, and inefficiencies just there because people want to make money. So, and all of that will not be detected on time. So because it's difficult to identify inefficiency and fake overtime already paid for. Because the review is done after payment. You can't be doing the review after payment. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. And what is our recommendation? Our recommendation is that overtime work should be reviewed before it is even done. Yeah. So which means if you want to work overtime, you need to ask your manager that you want to work overtime. It has to be approved first before you even do the work. So overtime must be approved ahead in advance. Yeah. And because it is not a routine task, so it's not a supervisor that should be doing it. It has to be done by the manager at the minimum, of find all the director, production director, right? So overtime must be approved in advance by the manager or production director, yeah, because it's not a mundane task. So you need a senior person to really approve it, and that is when you can now go ahead and do the work and get paid for it. Then you can now even follow up with this review, which is good. However, before you do it, it has to be approved in advance. That's number 4. We're still going to number 5 now. Let's look. Yeah, so finish with this paragraph. Let's go to the next paragraph. To encourage staff to attend work on time for all shift, Bronze pays a discretionary bonus every 6 months to factory staff. The production supervisors determine the amounts to be paid. Right, so the production supervisors should not also be determining the amount to be paid. It should be a standard process where the HR has determined the hourly rate, and based on the number of hours that people have worked on overtime that has been approved in advance, then you can compute and pay the overtime, right? So, and also the bonus is now imputed by the clerk into the system. That is wrong. Those are the things that a clerk is a junior staff. A supervisor is just slightly above a clerk. So supervisors, clerk, they should not be the one managing this bonus system. So production supervisor and clerk. The weakness are the fact that they are the one managing the bonus system. in charge of the bonus. This is not good. And why is it not good? It's not good because they can manipulate the data. Yeah? Because they are junior staff. They can manipulate data for their friends or fake bonus can be paid. Especially, some people even pay in cash without acknowledging or signing. So this same clerk is the one that will go and pay some people cash and say he knows them, so they don't have to sign. You can see it's a weakness, it's bad. Yeah, so anything bonus should be managed by the finance director, manager and the finance director actually. So we're not going to accept this. I'm going to recommend that bonuses should be computed by manager and approved by finance director. Finance should take charge of bonus. It has to be separated from production and those clerks, junior staff. So finance director and manager will manage that. Let's keep going. We're looking for weakness. For employees paid by bank transfer, the payroll manager reviews. Yes, we've said that's a strength. If any changes are required, payroll manager amends the record. That is where we say it's a problem. Because you cannot have the access to approve and have the access to amend. Segregation of duty is a problem there, because if you can put a data, you can change data, and you can still approve it, and you can put whatever you want and do fraud, so that when it's time to collect money, you go and collect the excess cash because you have changed the amounts to be paid. So the weakness is that payroll manager can amend and approve payroll records. And why is this a problem? It's a problem because you might just do a fraud easy. Yeah. So either deliberate or not deliberate. The real thing is that they can manipulate data. They can manipulate data and approve in their personal favor. Yeah, that is the problem with that. And what would be our recommendation? This has to be separated. So manager must not have both right and access to change data and approve. So 2 ways to handle this in terms of recommendation is either the change is approved by a senior person like a director, so the change goes to director for approval, or the report is rejected for supervisor or a clerk who imputed to change, and it comes back to the manager for approval. I hope you understand what we are saying here. So is that if you detect error in the payroll, you can reject it, and whoever has imputed can change it, then it comes back to you for approval. But two people must be in the know. So if you're going to do a fraud, then it has to be like there is a collusion, which no control can prevent. But one person should not be able to amend and still approve. So that is a challenge, that's a problem. So we'll be able to identify 6. Yeah, let's see if we can still get more. But we've done justice to the question as required. Now, for employees paid in cash, so there's more. Remember, we picked that one. We understand that this clerk believes that he knows all the employees, and because of that, she doesn't ask for proof of identity. That is bad. So, no proof of ID before salaries is paid for cash staff. Remember, some 20% are paid in cash. For the guys that are paid in bank, we can always track that we have paid them with the evidence of bank transfer. But for those ones that we don't collect their ID cards, there's a challenge because staff might deny being paid. And which means we have to pay them twice. So what is the control? The control is that for those paid in cash, they must present their ID card. They must present ID cards and even sign. Sign for their salary after collection. So with their signature, they cannot lie that they did not collect their salary. So these are the strengths we've looked at in section A of Scarlet, and these are the deficiency and recommendations, which is B part of the question. Now that will be it for payroll and wages system. We're going to look at another process in the next video. Until then, remember, continue to like, subscribe, share, and I've been enjoying your comments. It keeps me going. I must tell you that those comments actually motivated me to continue this one today. So let's keep going, and we're in together for this.